this is the way to speak to your points, a nice way to capture it, the knowing doing gap. Because if people really observe success stories on Facebook or in communities and think, well, what's the difference between those people out there who are getting big results in property and those of us who aren't? What's the difference between consistent year-on-year growth or stagnation or actual decline? And it really does come down to consistent execution of the right things. And what I found, and I know what you found over the last 5 years, is the power of a mastermind group to help bridge that knowing doing gap. And I've been looking at this and studying this for quite a while now, and what's really come clear through reading and studying and observing other people far, far ahead of us who are and have been part of masterminds and talking about this for a long, long time, but I feel like I kind of live and breathe this a lot right now, is that there are a number of clear problems in my mind that's holding people back from this knowing doing gap and actually executing. And people, this is what I was pointing to, people don't often realize. This is things like lack of clarity in what actually is it that they really want, what they're striving for and why they want that, and lack of alignment, actual alignment with who they are, their values, the way they want to do things, what they want to do, inability to make decisions. That's huge. I think you touched on it earlier about trouble making decisions on one's own. A lack of focus and lack of consistent execution. These are all problems inherent in people you and I have worked with over the years that we've experienced ourselves. And what I've come to realize, Emma, is that the solution to all that is human connection. It might sound strange in the first instance, but I don't just mean any kind of human connection. Human connection of the like-minded on the same journey, because I read this from, I'm going to quote Darren Hardy here, if I remember roughly. He talked about transformation, this journey from who we are now to who we want to become. And he talked about the journey being this epic year-on-year journey. And the biggest influence on that journey is who you choose to journey with. It's the who. And so to bring that into the context of a mastermind group, what I was getting at as to why and how human connection is the solution is because the right group of people around someone who's hungry and striving to want to apply and grow literally solves all those problems. So this clarity piece, clarity is a byproduct of having someone explain themselves and be understood to their peer group and have their ideas challenged or validated to help them arrive at a level of certainty and therefore decision. We talked about this, batting ideas around the room, having it challenged, validated, having new ideas layered on. It brings this level of clarity and ability to make decisions so that when the individual who is explaining themselves is kind of forcing themselves to specify what their plans are, when they describe it and talk it through to their peer group and to a mentor guiding it, they're then baking in this layer of accountability to declare publicly, this is what I'm going to do. And so they're pulling on all of these optimal psychological conditions to get the very best out of themselves. The way I see mastermind groups now, it's like having your own private board of advisors whose sole job is to sit in your corner and help you stay focused and productive month on month, week on week. That's where the magic of it comes from. That's where you're able to bridge this gap from knowing and doing. It's a tribal thing. We're a tribal species. We want to belong to a group who is growing and going somewhere. And because we are part of that like-minded group, we're able to actually step up and level up and match the expectations of this high-achieving peer group. That's what the Pygmalion effect is. You heard the Pygmalion effect before? Yeah, I think we've discussed it before. It's like this rising tide that raises all ships, that when you're in a group who have high expectations of one another, you are inclined to step up and meet those high expectations, and vice versa, hold high expectations of your peer group. So it's this reinforcing cycle, but it only happens with the right kind of human connections. And that's what I know you and I love doing. We love creating it, curating it, and working with great people to make that transformation, that journey year over year. It is powerful. It's incredibly powerful. It's magical, if you will.
Yeah, I totally agree. I love, absolutely. And I love the way, especially, you know, having conversations with you, because you see things quite, not differently, but it is differently. You know, there are ways that you see things sort of differently, and it's really powerful. So certainly we talked about, you know, how this can be really inspirational. Obviously you can have sort of accountability. You know, exactly as you said, you know, it can be, what is it, the average 5 people that you spend most time with, you're going to earn what the average of all of them earn, kind of thing. So it's and I think that's incredibly powerful. But one of the things I've been learning about recently that has been really powerful as well is to also kind of have faith. So like you and I have been in mastermind groups, and we've led mastermind groups, and we've been in mastermind groups, so to speak. And you'll have some people that are clearly a bit closed to this opportunity. And I think it's really key that when you're coming into an opportunity is to, one, be open, but two, to have, if you've chosen a group of people and you know that there's people in there that, you know, have abilities, to have faith that that group of people will help and support you find your journey, or find the route, or find the solution, or whatever it might be. But what I've really seen, and something that I really have to learn to do, is to, rather than me, for instance, looking at you and saying, oh, Tsen's got, you know, all these essay units and I haven't got as many, and I'm this and I'm that, and starting on a very competitive level is, so I'm reading I read it over and over, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattle, and he talks a lot about being creative. So you be in your own creativity, so create your own world, I suppose. Don't compete against everyone else. So it's the kind of thing where I look at you and just go, wow, look at what Tsen's done. He's got all of these things. What can I learn from him? How does he behave? Oh, he does that. I really like that. I'd like to do that. He does that. Oh, that's interesting. Maybe I won't. But you don't see it in a good or bad way. It's not a competitive way. You look at what you can take from these situations, and taking it from there. And that's been a really interesting one for me, because I definitely have come from a point of competition. I also have come from a position of being a bit jealous and thinking, oh, why haven't I got that? And having these kind of, you know, roles, and actually understanding how to make the most of a mastermind, I think is also really key, because, and we will come on to how you got into, you know, starting masterminds and stuff like that. But yeah, that, I don't know if you kind of seen that when you have people coming in and they're closed, aren't they? Whereas to me, that's been a huge learning, kind of having faith in those people that you've chosen to be with, because generally you have, via some kind of vibrational thing, have attracted these people. And even when you then go in and you're thinking, oh, they've done this, that, and the other, that's competitive. And now I'm really looking at it differently and just saying, right, what are all these positives? What can I see from there? What are the things that I can take from there, so that you create your own, rather than living in that kind of a bit of negativity?
There's 2 things that stood out for me that, or sprung to mind when I was hearing you talk about the thoughts that might pass through someone's mind when they're either thinking about joining a mastermind, or they've just joined one, they've stepped into one, they're going through this compare and contrasting. It's just a natural default setting that we will all do. But as you've realized, you come to see things and reframe it differently. So yes, be competitive and be inspired by those who are seemingly achieving things that you haven't yet. But there's a really key thing that I hope everyone listening to this live or to a recording takes away, that comparison is a dangerous game. The best comparison we must be thinking about is with ourselves a week ago, a month ago, a year ago. And I heard the, I guess the analogy put by it was, I forget what's the guy's name. He was a former Southwestern guy, wrote the book Take the Stairs. No, maybe it wasn't him. It was maybe a Darren Hardy one. But the analogy was about everyone's on their own respective staircases, their own journeys, and we cannot compare our staircase to someone else's. We can use looking at theirs to inspire us to take action and move faster, but it's dangerous to compare our staircase because we don't know where they started. We don't know what help they've had along their way. We don't know if they're on an escalator rather than a staircase. And so dangerous to compare one to another. The other thing that came up in my mind was, again, reframing, looking at these gaps, the knowledge, the experience, the accomplishments when in a peer group, when in a mastermind group. And instead of seeing it through a damaging light of, I'm so far behind, I'm frustrated, I'm angry with myself, I'm disappointed, I'm disheartened. Instead, a hugely powerful thing with mastermind groups is being able to recognize knowledge gaps, experience gaps, deficiencies, power team gaps much, much faster when we're in amongst a group that are high performing. And by identifying that, we're able to go and rectify and do something about it very, very quickly. So it's a real benefit and an accelerator rather than looking at, oh my God, I don't have this in place. It's like, brilliant. I've spotted that. I would never have seen that gap in my trajectory or in my business systems, in my power team, had I not been in amongst this group. So great. Now I can go and ask you questions and find out how to plug that gap extra fast. So the way we can look at it from every angle is win-win-win, benefit rather than the dangerous light of I'm not there, I'm not worthy, I'm putting myself down, etc. It's a very important reframe for everyone who's going on this growth journey.